Junkie Nation, Gorgeous George and Goes deliver for you yet again. We got another superstar in the world of combat sports. This time it's the president of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, David Feldman. They are coming off a big show, BKFC 19, which just took place this past Friday. VanZant versus Ostovich, and we can already start looking forward to BKFC 20 coming up here in a couple weeks. Welcome back, David. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. And like Goes was just saying, man, I mean, Bare Knuckle is being talked about. You guys have not arrived as in like this last show did it. We've been saying this for a while, but seriously, the stamp is there. You're not going away. You're not a fad. It's incredible, man, to see the rise of Bare Knuckle fighting, not boxing, fighting here before us, before our eyes. It's really, really cool. I was always proud to say I saw the birth of MMA in 1993 with the UFC 1 and all that. But I get to say that I saw the birth of Bare Knuckle fighting, the rebirth, I should say, from what used to happen a long time ago through you guys.
Well, I think you guys were. I think you guys might have been the first major show that did something on us back before our first event there in Vegas. Man, it was amazing being on that. And yeah, man, you used the one word that always got me. You said we're not a fad. People said we're a fad. We're going to go away. We're just here for a minute, one show, two shows, we're flash in the pan, and now we're just showing that we're not. I mean, we are here to stay. We don't have to say that anymore. I said it so many times at the beginning, we're here to stay, we're here to stay. Well, now I don't have to say, you just have to watch the product. It's it's the fastest growing combat sport in the world. It's the most exciting, most fast-paced, action-packed events that you ever get anywhere in combat sports. So we have something going really great here. We have some really, really great fighters. Some really good influencers that are working with us as well, and this thing is going in an upward direction.
Now, the UFC likes to say they're as real as it gets. You guys appear to be even more real and raw and primal. Do you think that's what people are falling in love with, or what do you think it is? Is there a secret sauce in there somewhere where people are watching, consuming the events, talking about them pre and post fight? You have just as many people from the combat sports world attending your events, because they're obviously enthused and enthralled by your events. What do you think it is?
Yeah, man, we did 2 back-to-back events with 4,000 plus in attendance, which is phenomenal for us. But I'll tell you what it is. It's so adaptable to the common person. Look, take nothing away from mixed martial arts. It's unbelievable, man. And it blew up, and the UFC did the best job they could ever do and blew it into now a $10 billion valuation. So it's tremendous. Can take nothing away from that. But with Bare Knuckle, it's more adaptable to the common folk. Everybody in the world, whether you're from 2 or 3 years old all the way up to 90 years old, you have either been in a fist fight or know what a fist fight is. So you can adapt to this. Yes, it's different. It's professional. It's well organized. It's in a great fighting platform, and we use professional fighters. But it's more adaptable to the common folk, and I think that's why it's catching fire so fast.
Or ran from a fist fight. But it wasn't fair, man, because he had his 2 brothers there. I didn't like my chance. But I do want to ask you, BKFC is now going to have their 20th show coming up. And again, let's parallel the UFC. UFC 20 is way different from what they're doing 20-some years later. UFC 20 was probably in the late 90s. So you guys are still kind of like, I guess, building the blocks, How different would you say you are from BKFC 1? And how different do you think you'll be in 20 more shows? Like, is that process of evolving and learning, is that kind of what's almost as exciting as the fights for you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think from this show all the way back to when you go back to the first show, like the production, you can't even compare. I mean, I think we're on as top level production as you can almost possibly get right now. Our lighting, everything about the way that we present our show is really, truly amazing. And obviously that's going to evolve with the times. And as we create more revenue and are able to spend more money, that's going to evolve as well. And the fighters themselves, I mean, we're getting more well-known fighters, more high-profile fighters right now than we had in the first show. And I see in 20 shows from now that the production, people covering us, the media, and the fighters are going to be, just going to be a whole different direction than what it is now. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot more widely accepted throughout the combat sports community. And I think a lot more fighters are not only going to end up wanting to transfer over here, but they're going to start here and they're going to finish here.
David, I like the analogy George brought up, and it got me thinking a little bit about, early on in UFC 1 through 10, there were these little evolutions of people didn't really know how to train for these things. It took a while to figure out, all right, this jiu-jitsu thing, I got to get on top of that. Then the wrestler kind of had his era, right? In bare knuckle, what would you say about the fighters? Have they kind of figured out the proper way to train for these things, and is it kind of developing its own little style in the training rooms now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great point. Yes, ATT, American Top Team, obviously one of the most famous MMA or combat sports gyms in the entire world has actually adopted a bare knuckle boxing training facility at their Florida location, and they're going to adapt them worldwide now. So it is learning the different techniques of how to throw, where to throw, and when to throw. They call boxing the sweet science, and I really call this the sweetest science, because you really have to pick your shots more, and they're learning how to do the clinch and fight off the clinch, and take advantage of different situations inside that square circle. So yes, it's evolving where they're learning better techniques, and they're learning how not to injure their hands and get injured. And as you saw with Taylor Starling in her first fight at Knuckle Mania in February, she came out face pretty swollen. She came into this fight, went right at it, learned a different technique, and won a 30 or 40-second knockout. So they're definitely adapting to the rule set, and they're making these new changes, and it's evoluting the sport.
Going back into the history of what you've done there, I remember the night of Lobov and Knight, and I remember tweeting, and I remember getting upset with myself because my eyes sometimes would drift from the TV because I was so enamored with trying to tell as many friends as I can, are you watching this? You got to watch this. And then seeing the Twitter reactions before I knew it, I'm like, I'm missing the fight. This is insane. This last card kind of had a very similar feeling where it was like you just didn't want to miss out. And the buzz that was going on, and even round by round, just seeing what people were saying, where does this event kind of where does it rank amongst all the events that you've put on so far?
I mean, I think it was more talked about than any event that we've ever done. Knuckle Mania was Paige's first fight, and that was very, very talked about on the corner of the Super Bowl. But I think this one, as we got more fans knowing about bare knuckle and into bare knuckle since that event, 6 months after that, I think this was probably the most talked about and most watched event that we've done in history so far. It was probably our most successful event that we've had, and it's just really gaining more and more fans and getting bigger from here.
Have you had an opportunity now with a couple days going by to speak to Paige, to speak to Rachel, and see where they're at emotionally, physically going forward here? Yeah,
just a few text messages. Paige, she walked off on the and didn't do the post-fight interview. She was upset, and I was a little upset, to be honest with you, because that's part of the game. But she texted me and said, look, I really apologize. I'm just a passionate person, and I try my hardest in everything I do. And for me, coming up on the short end of the stick, it really bothered me. And, I walked off, and I apologize for that. And then we had conversations after that where, she can't wait to come back, and we just have to see where that makes sense and who makes sense for her to fight next. But, she's a game person. I mean, she does want to be the best at whatever she does. It's not like she went in there in either of these fights and just got her ass kicked the whole entire time. She went in there and fought her ass off both times. So, we're going to welcome Paige back. And whenever she's ready, we're going to sit down with her and her management team and see what's next for that. Then we go over to Rachel Ostovich, who said she would only do this for one fight. And she just wanted to fight Paige and have a rematch with her, and she was done. And couldn't, continue to tell me how much fun she had in there and how exciting it was and how fun it was to be in there. And now she can't wait to come back now. So, it's almost like an addicting thing. It's crazy to be in there and you're fighting with these beautiful women, or fighting with no gloves on in this quote unquote brutal sport. And they can't wait to, come back at it. So I think that speaks volumes for the organization, for the sport itself, and for the places that we're heading.
David, I want to ask you about women versus men, but not in the sense of trying to create a dividing line. Like Strikeforce came away very strong early on with Carano and Cyborg leading the way. And then, of course, they wound up building a huge roster of male fighters, and then they got Misha and Ronda on the tail end of their existence. The UFC was not warm to women fighting there until Ronda came along, and then it became actually their biggest selling ticket for a while until Mr. McGregor stepped on the scene. And I'm not as much of a WWE guy, but sometimes I'll get caught up for 6 months watching some of these events. But I did go with Goes down to Arizona, and we went to a Royal Rumble, and I was in awe of how much the ladies took over the show. It was their Royal Rumble. I don't remember what the rest of the card was. I just remember they were the stars. I couldn't believe it. Then they headlined a WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken. So I wanted to ask you, now that you've had a taste of the women headlining, the men headlining, obviously more history with men than women, but what do you think is driving BKFC right now? Who are your biggest stars, and who is that? Will you'll go and start to put more of your chips in as this happens in the popularity of these fighters?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to invest in the women, and it's not because they're women. It's because they're women and they're fighting their asses off. They're having fights at a night. They're having the best fights that we've ever seen in BKFC history. So we're definitely going to invest in the women going forward. But the men are putting on tremendous fights as well. I think what's really growing the popularity of this and keeping people coming back to this, it's just we always have evenly matched fights. We're not, people expected us to have Paige VanZant come in there and get 2 quick knockout wins. It's just not how we're doing it. We don't give gifts away. You have to earn your spot here. And it's because we owe it to the fans. The fans are really making us the fastest growing combat sport in the world right now. And because of that, we have to get back to them by giving them evenly matched fights that they want to see. And I can't remember really having any really horrible fights in the history of BKFC, especially not on this last show. We had some tremendous fights, and that's how we're going to just keep growing forward, by putting on these evenly matched fights and creating storylines, obviously building up the characters of the guys and girls that we have fighting for us so people have something to follow. But, we're definitely going to stay in the women's business. We're going to evolve the women's business, and we're going to grow the men's business as well.
Is PVZ versus Ostovich 3 something you want to jump on immediately, since it sounds like both ladies, the juices are still flowing, or do you let it simmer and start to bring others and maybe look forward to it down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to see what's out there first. I jammed the Artem Lobov Jason Knight rematch down everybody's throat right away, and I think I made a mistake by not getting them one fight first. So I just want to see what's out there first. We do have Beck Rawlings coming back, who would be an interesting rematch for Paige also as well. We have Britton Hart, who earned herself a rematch. We just have to see what makes sense for this 125-pound weight division and see what makes sense for everybody. But, we're definitely going to start a tournament. We're going to get that championship going, and we're going to see what makes sense for everybody. Like I said, we're going to know a lot more in the next couple of weeks, but we don't want to rush this. This is something that's going to mean a lot to us and the growth of this company, so we want to make sure we make the right moves here.
Is the word out? Are celebrities and athletes from other sports, famous people, reaching out and telling you they're having bare knuckle fighting championship fight parties at home?
Absolutely. I mean, this time we had the big show there. We had like 10 different WWE guys there. We had a bunch of Tampa Bay Bucks were there. We had movie stars there in the house. I mean, it was really who's who was at this event. And then the one previous to this in Miami, we had all the UFC guys coming out, the Miami Dolphins coming out. Everybody, a lot of the different popular guys in combat sports, in sports in general, and really just A-listers. So yeah, the word is absolutely getting out. Like, for instance, our relationship with Shaq started where he just DM'd us in our Instagram and said, yo, this stuff is hot. And I was like, is this really Shaq? And then he sent a video. He's like, yeah, who else you think it is? Like, it's because they're liking what they're seeing. Like, it's raw. It's the rawest stuff that there is out there, really. Is it as real as it gets? I mean, fighting in general, it's all as real as it gets. But I mean, like I said, it's adaptable to the common folk more than anything else is. So I think that's why everybody's attaching to this thing right now.
Well, all right, just a couple more questions. Again, appreciative of your time.
Sure.
Diego Sanchez is saying, I could see myself doing something like that. Even Chuck Liddell saying, if the phone rings, I'll pick it up. do you want that? Are you getting more MMA calls or more boxing calls or even maybe kickboxer or Muay Thai people? What kind of athletes are coming your way? And then part two is, do you want athletes that have competed in other sports to come and be a part of yours? I mean, what Leonard Garcia did was pretty great, but at the same time, I imagine you also want to get someone, because Leonard Garcia said, if this was around when I started competing, I probably wouldn't have done MMA, and this is what I would have done. Right. So would you want that Leonard Garcia versus the end, or a mixture of both? Have you decided in what direction you want to go in? And then Sanchez and Liddell, if you have any replies there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want it all. I want the boxers, I want the MMA fighters, Muay Thai fighters, kickboxers. I want them all to come over to bare knuckle fighting. And at the same time, now we're evolving. So we're bringing these bigger stars in, and people are watching the show. And now we have a chance to evolve these younger guys. These younger guys are future superstars, and we can build them up as you're tuning in to watch a Paige VanZant. Now you're seeing on the undercard the future of bare knuckle fighting. So we want to kind of do it that way. And as I can answer your question for like Diego Sanchez, look, with him and Chuck Liddell, both of them would bring tremendous value to the organization. I just want to make sure that they're in the right health and, everything is there for them to compete at a high level. I don't want to bring in a Chuck Liddell, how he looked on the, against Tito Ortiz. And I know that he said that wasn't really him. He had a lot of medical issues going into that fight. So if it's the Chuck Liddell kind of old, I know we'll never get the old Chuck Liddell. I just don't want to get old Chuck Liddell, if you understand what I mean. So if we can get the Chuck Liddell somewhere in between, I would love to welcome him into bare knuckle. But obviously we want to put the best shows that we can put on and, put the most competitive fights on and make sure that these guys go in there at 100% and they can, leave in good health as well. Diego Sanchez, I'm definitely having conversations with him, probably even today, and we'll see what makes sense for him. Again, if I bring either one of these guys in, it'll be against the most strategic opponent that makes sense to put on a great fight and to also have, an evenly matched fight where these guys aren't going in on a real uphill battle.
Chris Lytle was a welterweight, same division as Diego Sanchez. You can just tell in his voice he gets the juices, but who knows?
He's actually going to get some stem cell therapy. He said if that works, he's back.
Here we go.
Every time it's so hard to watch. He's watching and watching and watching. And I proposed a fight to him, and he's like, he was about to do it, and then he said, "Look, man, I just can't do it." He said, "I'm not feeling right." And then he said he's going to get this therapy, and if it works for him, he's coming back. So he's our guy. He was actually on our first show with you guys. He's our guy. I love the guy. So I always have to welcome him back if he ever wants to come back.
All right. Woodley and Lombard having a conversation a few feet away from you during your last event. Did you know this whole thing was happening? Were you keeping an eye on it, or did you only catch it at the end? And what came of that? Because it looks like now they are down to fight at Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship.
Yeah, man, I don't know how it really started. I just know I went over there. I thought they were just talking. Then I saw it got a little heated, so I walked over. I just said, "Come on, guys, man, you guys are consummate professionals. We can't do this here." And they walked away. And then I heard, they had a history. They had beef together in the past. So, would I welcome that to Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship in a heartbeat? So, we'll see what happens with Tyrone Woodley when he fights Jake Paul and see what's next for him there. But I would love to have that fight here. That would be a tremendous fight. And a lot of media, I would imagine, would be covering that as well.
It's hard to read you because all I've known is a cool customer since the very beginning. In our studio, when you're doing the face-offs, in an event like this, again, you were just a few feet away, but you were like, hey, you weren't, you didn't call security or nothing like that. But I can tell deep down you're kind of like, excellent.
I'm absolutely like, oh, wow, this is good stuff. But at the same time, I just keep a cool composure. I've been in there, right? I'm a fighter, so I've been in there. I'm not like just one of these other suits that are watching and go, oh, my God, these guys are fighting. I don't have to do that. I can talk to them, right? Hey, my man, come on, we don't want to do that here. Let's just break it up. As you saw what happened with that altercation, I got in the middle of it just because I just wanted to end the thing fast because I was there. So I'm not, do I keep a cool composure? Absolutely. But, I get heated when I have to at the office a lot. The guys see my fire, and that's what makes this thing grow because they want to make sure that we can execute on the next level, and we continue to do that. And, as long as these fighters keep coming to fight, I don't see any end in sight for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship.
You know, it's funny George brings up reading you because I have been so wrong in the past. So you teased the other day that there could be some big free agent signings. And the last time you did this, it was almost like a Sopranos show where I made like a graph and I'm like, okay, these are the guys that could possibly, and I was way off. So this time coming around, I figured I'd just ask you, like, is there a hint you can throw us? Is there something? Because obviously I can't ever guess these.
You know, man, I have a big show going on with the one guy we're announcing. You know, you guys are, man, any hint I give, honestly, is going to give it away. So I can't really give a hint until the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, because I know if I give a hint, because the one hint I was thinking about giving, then I went through the list of what I was going to say, and I said, oh, they're going to grab this in a second. So I can't give you a hint, but I think the one you're probably not going to be that surprised about, and the other one you're going to be like, wow, I did not see that coming. Okay.
Now, one thing, when we're talking about just the love for Bare Knuckle and how easy it is to fall in love with the show, that's not just here in the United States. I have to imagine anywhere you go, the same thing's going to happen. International travel, has that come any closer?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to launch in February, as long as this second strand of COVID doesn't knock everybody out again. We're going to launch in February of 2022. We're going to start the series in Russia. We're going to do a monthly series over there. Do you know right now we do our events live in Russia, and we're getting 700,000 to 1 million live viewers at 5 a.m. So, I mean, it's just tremendous fan base for it over there. So, you know, they love it. We're going to go over there. We're going to go to Thailand, and we're definitely going to go in Latin America. So that's going to be our three focus points. Obviously the UK as well, but you know, they're opening up, shutting down, opening up, shutting down. So we don't know what's next there. But we definitely have international plans and intentions for 2022 to really blow this thing up. Our international fan base is growing faster than our domestic. Obviously, there's a lot more venues internationally, but it's just been a tremendous run for these past 3 years. I'm happy. You might not see it sometimes because I'm always thinking, but I'm happy as hell, man. I can't believe where we are right now. I thought we would get here, but I didn't think we'd get here in 3 years. And, you know, like you guys said, this Monday they were talking about us. Listen, let me finish that statement. This Monday they were talking about us as much or more as they were talking about the UFC event on Saturday night. And I had guys inside the UFC. I mean, major guys, like, you know, major players in the UFC in the front office text me on Sunday and say, how come everybody was talking about your event at my event? It was crazy. So, I mean, for that kind of stuff, man, I can pinch myself sometimes, and, you know, it's truly unbelievable, but, you know, we're here. We work our asses off. The fighters fight their asses off, and we're just going to keep moving this thing, man.
We love you and we hate you, and I'll tell you why. Because we love Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. You guys have done outstanding things, you know, during these 19 shows. 20 is about to come up. We'll be promoting it along the way. But the reason that we hate you is because you're basically stealing the free weekends or the free Friday nights here and there that we started to have, because obviously the UFC turned it up. PFL's on the scene. One championship dipping in on TNT, Bellator. It never ends, you know. And then when you kind of think you have a free night, Bare Knuckles coming up. You can't miss that. So, yeah, we don't have too many free nights left. And I'm not joking. The traffic dictates people want to hear more Bare Knuckles, so we're going to cover it, you know. So it's good for us. It's good for you. It's just not good for the girlfriends and wives.
Yeah, you know, it's not good here at home either. That much. You know, it is what it is. They got to deal with the growth. I mean, you know, you can argue opinion all you want, but you can't argue numbers, right? The numbers are the numbers. The data is the data, and they want to see it, so we're giving it to them.
Hey, can you give me a close number too? You said Russia, 700,000 to 1 million. What's another country that would catch us off guard where they're just consuming your product?
Brazil is crazy for us, crazy. Australia also. You know, one that probably would catch you off guard is Turkey. Turkey, it's obviously a smaller country, but we're doing like 400,000 live viewers there. Crazy.
And they're just gobbling up the BKFC, huh? Over there in Turkey.
That was good.
All right, thank you, David Feldman, for your time. As always, it's been a blast catching up with you, and an even bigger blast covering your events.
Awesome.
Can't wait for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship 20th coming up here. With
awesome. Any information you need on bare knuckle, just go to bkfc.com. You can
BKFC.com for sure. It's Bedford versus Barnett on Friday, August 20th. You can catch the fights on the BKFC app or go to bareknuckle.tv. Either one of those will get you bare knuckle fighting. Thanks, David, for the time again. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it as always.